I walked into a hotel lobby expecting a quiet morning, and instead walked right into a full-blown tantrum. An older woman was lecturing a young front desk clerk because her special parking spot had been taken. Within minutes, she turned her rage on me, expecting I'd side with her. But when I gave her one short, brutally honest answer, it shut her down so fast, the whole lobby went silent. If you've ever had to deal with someone who thinks the world revolves around them, this story is for you. Hit like, subscribe, and get ready, because this entitled woman learned the hard way that manners matter more than money. Now let's dive in. It was late afternoon when I arrived at the hotel, one of those cozy, small-town places with polished floors, the smell of fresh coffee in the air, and soft music playing in the background. I just finished a long drive, exhausted but content, ready to check in and relax. But as I stepped through the glass doors, I immediately noticed tension. At the front desk stood a young clerk, maybe 21, polite but visibly nervous. Across from him was a sharply dressed older woman, silver jewelry, expensive handbag, hair perfectly styled, the kind of person who seemed to own every room she walked into. And she was angry. Her voice echoed across the lobby as she snapped, "This is unacceptable. My car group was promised the front parking spots. Those were supposed to be ours." The clerk's voice was steady but soft. "Ma'am, I'm really sorry, but the parking spaces aren't reserved. They're available to any guest." But that only fueled her fury. She leaned closer over the counter, finger tapping impatiently. "You don't understand. This car show brings money to this town. We were guaranteed those spots for our vehicles. My group is arriving any minute, and we expect them cleared." At this point, the poor kid looked like he'd rather sink into the floor. His shoulders were tense, his hands fidgeted with a pen. He tried again to reason with her. "Ma'am, we don't have any way to reserve parking, but I can ask maintenance to—" She cut him off mid-sentence. "No, I don't want you to ask. I want you to fix it." Her tone wasn't just angry, it was superior, the kind that made everyone nearby cringe in secondhand embarrassment. A few guests nearby pretended not to listen, but their eyes said otherwise. The entire lobby was holding its breath. I had walked up by now, quietly standing behind her in line, waiting to check in. That's when she turned around, clearly looking for an audience, or worse, an ally. She looked me straight in the eye and said, "Can you believe this? They're refusing to give us our parking spaces, after everything our club does for this town." I blinked, taken aback. For a moment, I thought she was joking. But no, she was dead serious, waiting for me to agree and back her up. And I could see it. The poor front desk kid's eyes darting to me, silently pleading, "Please don't make this worse." So I took a breath, tilted my head slightly, and said calmly, "Seems to me like you're feeling pretty entitled." The words hung in the air like thunder after lightning. The woman froze. Her expression shifted from shock to outrage. Her mouth opened, then closed again, but no words came out. You could have heard a pin drop. After a few tense seconds, she huffed, grabbed her purse, and stormed out through the lobby doors, heels clacking on the marble floor like punctuation marks of fury. The young clerk just stared for a second, then quietly exhaled, the kind of exhale that says, "Thank goodness that's over." He looked at me, a mix of disbelief and relief on his face, and said softly, "Thank you." I smiled and shrugged. "Don't mention it. You handled that better than most people would have." Here's the thing. It wasn't just about a parking spot. It never is with people like that. Entitled people believe rules don't apply to them. They treat kindness like weakness and think the world owes them special treatment. But what they never expect is when someone, calmly, without shouting or insults, calls them out for it. That one sentence wasn't meant to embarrass her. It was meant to make her think. And judging by how fast she left, it did exactly that. As I finally checked in, the young clerk thanked me again. He told me it wasn't the first time someone had yelled at him that week, but it was the first time someone had stood up for him. That stuck with me. Because here's the truth, we all meet people like that at some point. Whether it's a boss, a customer, or even a family member, people who think their time, money, or title gives them more worth than everyone else. And sometimes, all it takes is one honest line to remind them that no one is above basic decency. Later that evening, I saw the same woman again in the hotel restaurant. She was sitting alone, scrolling furiously on her phone, her expression tight and bitter. The rest of her car club had apparently arrived, but no one was sitting with her. They had all parked wherever they could find space and were happily chatting at another table. The irony was perfect. She'd spent all that time demanding special treatment, but in the end, her important parking spot didn't matter one bit. As I passed her table, she caught my eye briefly and immediately looked away. She didn't say a word. Sometimes, silence is the sweetest revenge. That day taught me something simple. Entitlement collapses the moment it's confronted with calm confidence. You don't need to argue, shout, or prove yourself. Sometimes, all it takes is a single sentence, delivered with quiet truth, to make an entitled person realize the world doesn't owe them a thing. If this story gave you secondhand satisfaction, go ahead and smash that like button. You've earned it. Tell me in the comments. Backhand index pointing right, what's the most entitled behavior you've ever seen? And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life revenge and karma stories that prove justice always finds its way.